Sweet. We are recording now. All right. Thank y'all for joining me today. It's me, Coach Smith, Coach Dark Skin Clark Kent. This very special episode of the Exchange Zone. I got one of my, like a little brother to me. Definitely one of my, all my athletes are my favorite athletes, but this guy was, one of my special athletes. Really, a guy that got me taking coaching very serious, and up until this day, just someone that I look out for. I'm really proud of him. We're gonna walk and talk about the life of Sam Ellis, and we'll talk about his journey to breaking 4 minutes in the mile. We'll start with Sam. Why don't you come on? Thanks for joining us. Why don't you introduce yourself? Kind of tell me, give yourself a quick rundown of, let them know who you are and what you do and all that stuff.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I'm Sam. I started running track in probably seriously at about 8th grade or so. Got cut from the baseball team in 6th grade and had to find a spring sport. So that's kind of where I found track. I was always pretty fast growing up. So my PE coach, Coach Freddie Jones, pulled me aside one day in PE class and suggested that I run on the track team. So I tried it out and I ended up liking it. And I met Coach Smith in 8th grade I'd seen him around at a couple practices, but we didn't really connect very much until the 8th grade state meet, where he ended up helping me win a couple state titles as a middle schooler. And that kind of sealed the deal on my love for track. And I just kept running ever since. So right now I'm a junior, about to be rising senior at Princeton University. I run track and field and cross country there. I study international affairs and public policy. And as far as now, I don't really have any other plans after college outside of running, but I'm just trying to stay in school and keep being fast.
Cool. So we're going to take you back. I mean, you kind of gave us the end of what it is, but I don't know if you know where this is from or not. This is from Pulp Fiction, so we're going to Tarantino it. You gave us the ending, and now we're going to start back from the beginning. So I'm going to start with the story of what got me even in your life, per se. So it's definitely Freddie Jones. Is it Freddie or Terry Jones? I just know him as Coach Jones. It's Freddie, right?
Freddie, yeah.
Yeah, Freddie Jones. Yeah, so Coach Jones, I was working as a personal trainer in Atlanta, and, this is post-collegiate running, post my short stint as a professional runner, all this stuff. I'm just down here working, and I got involved with one of my clients who was a high school kid. We would go over to Cheney track and do some workouts. He was just a personal training client, but he had ran track, so we were just doing some stuff to kind of switch it up. He was a 400-meter runner, and I saw Coach Jones was out there with some of his kids over the summer, and he saw me working with the kids, and he just told me, I got a kid that's going to be an 8th grader. I think this was the summer between your 7th and 8th grade year. And he was just telling me how I got this kid, and he's a half miler, because he asked me what I ran. I told him I ran a half mile back in the day. And he was like, I got a half mile. You got to come and meet him. You got to come and coach him. And I was like, I'm really not into it, not like that. I don't really have the time. And then I went out to that track with the same kid 3-4 more times. And every time I was out there, I would see Coach Jones. So finally, he convinced me to come out and see you and come out and help out with the team and all that stuff. And pretty much immediately when I saw you run, I was like, okay, this kid, I think he might have been 6 foot, 6'1" as an 8th grader, just tall and skinny, and, a very awkward stride, but everything that you was doing, you could see the potential that you had. So I was like, I got to come and work with the kid. And then again, that takes us to 8th grade. Let's talk about the 8th grade track meet. If you remember, I think that's where you got your nickname. They started calling you Big Sam. The guy on the announcer was calling you Big Sam by the end of the track meet. What happened that you went from, in one day, in about a 6-hour span, if you recall, you went from Sam Ellis to Big Sam? Let's talk about that day.
Yeah. So I guess, I was sort of on the map for Georgia middle school running, as small of a map that may be. But like I had run, I think 205 and 457 as an eighth grader before the state meet, which were pretty solid times for a middle schooler. And then I remember Coach Jones telling me that like in eighth grade, he's like, yeah, I think you could probably run 142 by the time it's all said and done. And as an eighth grader, I had no idea what that meant. So I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like about 23-second drop. Yeah, I can do that. I didn't really understand how fast that really was at the time. But yeah, I mean, he basically told me you got to drop everything and run. And in eighth grade, I was on the baseball team in the spring. So I went to baseball practice Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, and then I ran Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I don't know why. I don't know if I even started every game in baseball. I just liked it. So yeah, I still thought I could do it all: baseball, basketball, soccer, track. But in middle school, all the other middle schoolers are kind of doing the same thing. So I was able to compete pretty well in track. And I think that day I had never done I guess a quadruple like that. It was a 4x4, 4x8 mile and 800. And I won't talk about the 4x4 because I think we got smoked. But the mile was the first race, and a couple kids in the field had faster times than me, and so I was just going out to win. And the couple state meets before, I remember like before the race, I would just sit up in the stands eating fruit snacks, not really stretching, not really paying attention. And I think you, Coach Smith, definitely like kind of put it into that. You were watching me, making sure I was fueling right, stretching. And so the first race went great. And me and this kid, Ben Davies, like went back and forth and back and forth. I ended up pulling out the win in 447, which at the time was #1 in the country for middle schoolers. And then I remember you pumped me full of whatever that gross refuel gel is. I can't remember what it was, but it was like energy gel or something. Stretched me out.
Like BCAAs in a gel type.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was gross, but it ended up working because the same thing happened to 800. Same deal. Me and this kid, we're going back and forth. Close finish, ran 206. And then the 4x8 was definitely the most memorable race for me. Ended up getting the baton like about 150 meters behind the guy in front. And I remember the announcer saying, "This is Big Sam getting closer. He's getting closer." And I just thought it was like forever away. Like I told the guy at the starting line, he's like, "What are you about to run?" And I said, "I'll probably run like 206 right here." And he's like, okay, we'll see. So I ended up splitting 206, and I ended up catching the guy the last 50 meters. And so that was an awesome way to cap off the state meet. And after that, like I was pretty sure I wanted to be really good at track because that was an amazing feeling. So yeah, that's kind of where we started our relationship. The next year you started coaching me.
So yeah, I was supposed to be the middle school coach, but I went back to Freddie and I was like, I'm not gonna come back unless I can train, because I think it was you, it was Kobe Clark, the kid Matthew that did not run, who still to this day.
Oh yeah.
He should have ran. He did not run. And then it was what was the other kid's name? I forget the other kid's name, but he transferred school. And yeah. I didn't know that, but I just knew that y'all were a group of 4 kids, and y'all were, I just knew that y'all were going to continue to rise as a group. Turns out only 2 of y'all ended up running, but I told Coach I would not come back unless, I could move up with you guys. So we all kind of started high school together, if you will. So let's take it to the high school. You're still not just a track guy though. You're still doing other sports. And let's talk about what happens in your freshman year and walk me up until your freshman year and through your first time winning the state championship.
Yeah. I was doing other sports. I mean, not exactly, I wasn't doing them very well, but I was doing other sports. I played basketball. Didn't run cross country until sophomore year. My dad was a huge basketball fan, played basketball. So that's kind of like was my first love, first sport. I was incredibly average. I was a tall guy, so, that's why I sort of got into it. But I remember every day at the track, you would tell me that you would dunk on me and cross me up and all
Right.
sorts of stuff, which might have been true, but as a freshman, I wasn't having any of it. And if anything, it just made me want to play more. But during track season, I definitely got a taste of high school running. I mean, you're not like the top dog, the top eighth grader anymore. This happens every time you go up level. And so I got toasted in a couple races especially the mile, because I just had no strength. I was just all like sort of raw speed. So the 800 I did okay, but I still got tossed around a little bit. I ended up making the state meet in the 800. I think I was the only guy on the team to make the state meet. And I got third, ran 157, which was a considerable PR. I think I broke two probably like for the first time a couple weeks before that. And I mean, that was like a huge accomplishment. I probably could have run 158, but I saw that I was going to break two. And I think I started celebrating at the line and ran like 159.5 or something. Yeah, I mean, so that was a big season. I only ran 440 in the mile though. And so going into the next year, like I definitely knew I wanted to get down, because you don't really get recruited unless you run like under 420 in the mile or something like that. So yeah, that's kind of how freshman year went.
Okay, so your freshman year, then you go 10th grade. You start running cross country, which is a new commitment, I guess adding some more tools to your belt. So you're picking up more endurance. You're focusing on running in the summer. You still playing basketball?
Yeah, I was playing basketball over the summer, like summer league with the varsity team. I was like pretty sure I was going to make the varsity team. And so I did run some, but I definitely wasn't that serious over the summer. And then I definitely felt the consequences of that in cross country. I wasn't really looking forward to cross country. I'm an outdoorsy guy and I like running in the woods, but 3.1 miles was like 2.1 miles too far for me. But we had a guy, Connor Tenaglia, huge factor in my running career.
Big shout out to Connor T. Yep, crazy Connor.
Crazy Connor, yeah. He was crazy. He would blow on his hands, like while he was running to cool them off because they got so hot, and everybody thought he was like doing something. People thought he had like drugs that he was taking like while he was running. They thought he was crazy. But he was a crazy guy, and he really got on me about not putting in enough mileage, not enough strength training, because I could always beat him in like a speed workout. But he was tough when it came to endurance training. So the first cross country race, I remember I beat him, and he was so mad because it was my first race ever, and he was like, "What the heck am I doing here? If like you come out on your first race and you beat me." That was funny, but we went back and forth that season. I think he beat me a couple times. I beat him a couple times. Ended up getting 10th at state in cross country. So for a season, that felt good. And then basketball came around. We were 500. I like maybe played in half the games. And after that, spring season came around. I won state in the mile and the 800 for track. And after that, I was like, look, like this is something I want to do in college. You were telling me, I think you really convinced me. Like if you really want to be good, you got to commit to it full time. Because I was winning state, but afterwards I went to like the AAU or like nationals or something like that, and I got my butt kicked. And it's because all those other guys are not playing basketball; they're running full time. So after that, that's when I kind of like committed to the track process, just cross country in the fall, indoor track in the winter, and outdoor track in the spring. So yeah, outdoor season sophomore year ran 155, 421, and then fast forward to junior year. I don't know if you wanted to go over any more sophomore year.
Well, let's talk about your sophomore year. So you had the twins, the East Jackson boys. I forget their names, but those were your rivals. I know that much.
And Chase Chandler Kennedy, identical.
Yeah. So you raced. What was first? The mile was that night. Was it Thursday night or Friday night?
Yeah, Thursday night.
So yeah, let's talk about your first state championship. Walk me through the race. How'd you feel going into the race, knowing that you had those boys that you were going to be racing? And
yeah, well, I mean, the 800 I was definitely the favorite to win, but the mile I was not. I think both of them had beaten me a couple times, like earlier in the season, and I was coming off a big PR. I'd run 425, at the regional meet, and I hadn't raced them since the beginning of the season. I ran like 4:36 the last time I raced them. But they definitely had the fastest time. I want to say definitely in 3A because we were in 3A at the time. But they had one of the faster times in the state at the time. So I mean that didn't really bother me. Like you guys, you were always telling me to just race for the win. It wasn't really about the time. So I just got in the race, and something I would never even think about doing now as a collegiate runner, but I just went with 500 to go, and then they started kicking too. And then at 400, we started kicking again. I don't know how I had so many kicks. Like now, if I kick once, that's pretty much it. Then we started kicking again at 300, and it was literally just like a dogfight. The last 400 meters, I think we closed with 59, which was pretty quick for definitely sophomore year. Ended up running 4:21, and I think I beat them by like 0.8, which, most people think that's not that far. But I got a little distance on them at the end there.
That's a lifetime. Yeah, that's a lifetime. Yeah, I remember specifically, I was sitting over, in coach's corner every time I'm in the same spot. And I had got there early because I wanted to make sure I was right where I needed to be, right where you could see me, right where I can give you my splits and give you any coaching. And then the Kennedy's family comes and sits right in front of me. And they didn't know who I was, but I knew who they were because they were talking about the boys. And as we start coming around, I'm yelling out splits, and they go, "I think that's his coach up there." And they were talking so much trash about how the boys was going to give it to you, give you the business, and they weren't worried about you, and they were going to go 1-2 and all this stuff. And I didn't say nothing, but as soon as I started coaching you, they started feeling real sheepish.
Yeah,
and I was like, you better beat them, because after all this trash that they done talked, and I'm over here flexing, I was like, you better beat them. So you ended up getting them. It was a very fun race to watch. You definitely took them down. They were running together. They were running with great tactics. But that last 500 meters, it might have been 3 or 4 lead changes between the three of you. And then eventually you were able to pull away. So that was definitely fun to watch. And you rivaled those guys your junior year as well, because y'all were the same age. I think they would beat you in cross country, and then you would try and get your revenge on the track, which you were able to do your sophomore and your junior years. I think that was fun to watch for sure.
I remember you telling me about that silent trash talk you kind of gave their parents next to them. You didn't say much, but you're just coaching me. That was a great feeling. And I remember that rivalry so well because in cross country and in track, the announcer would always be like, "Here's Sam Ellis trying to chase Kennedy," and they would say the same thing over and over, and I would hate it. Cross country, they definitely got the best of me sophomore and junior year. I think I could have given them a challenge senior year, but we changed divisions. So we were 5A and they remained 3A. But yeah, in the mile, I got them. And then I think one of my favorite races of my high school career was that 800 sophomore year. I've watched that video a couple times. I don't know if you remember it as well, but I remember you telling me that I was going to be alone in the race and that I was going for time, and that every 200 I just needed to give another boost, basically another surge. So if you see in the video, every 200 meters, you can see my change in form. I'm just running forward, and then I lean down and run forward a little bit more. Every 200, I'm just surging. And the announcers are like, "Here's Sam Ellis with another boost." And I think by the end, I ran 155, which was a considerable PR. And then the second place guy was 159. So that was such a fun race for me, even though I was all alone.
So let's talk about, we're still in your sophomore year, junior year. Let's talk about your training. What type of training were you doing? How many miles were you hitting a week? Were you logging that? Were you concerned with it?
I was not paying attention to the mileage, honestly. I just kind of listened to you. I listened to you on the track. I definitely could have done a better job. This is even to my senior year. I was better, but you would give me distance runs to do or little tempos to do, and you couldn't really monitor all my workouts because you really could just monitor what I was doing at the track. So I think my speed work was the best it ever was, especially junior year. But as far as strength training and endurance goes, I think my mileage was probably like 30, 40 miles a week, maybe that. And it was usually like 7-minute mile pace for the easy runs, distance runs, all sorts of that stuff. So I don't think I was very strong. I was strong enough to pull off 3A state title in a mile. But I can't remember if it was sophomore year or junior year. I went to like 1 or 2 meets after the season, and I would always like kind of fade by the time like summer came around. But anyway, junior cross country season, you weren't coaching me. It was Coach Souther coaching me, but you sort of gave me training here and there. I definitely improved a lot. I got 3rd at state behind Jason Chandler Kennedy. So that was sort of bittersweet because it was a big jump to get 3rd, but at the same time I wanted to beat those guys. But then junior spring was really when I started to come on the scene as a big time high school distance runner.
Yeah, from my vantage point as a coach, I knew you weren't getting a lot of miles. You were still kind of young as a runner, knowing that you weren't really into cross country. I mean, you were just starting cross country, and I knew putting you on 60 or so miles a week would not have been beneficial to you that early on in your career as a runner. So I made sure that you did. I would try to manipulate your energy systems more on the track and make sure that we got the most out of our track work. And I knew if you even were dogging, your mileage, you were still going to get enough. But also, I knew I needed to have room for when you went to the next level, i.e. college, that they can start giving you 60, 70, 80-mile weeks, and that would be brand new. It wouldn't be, I ran 60, 70 miles in high school, so now I got to run 80, 90, 100 miles, which, is definitely not, I always tell people, Sam probably could have broke 150. He probably could have ran under 405 if I would have had him running 50, 60 miles. But that, where do you go from that once you get, so I knew we wanted to save a little bit in the tank for the next level. And then, we'll get to that, but obviously that was a good idea, So now we're going to fast forward. You're done with the Kennedys. You beat them, and you defend your title. You're from your sophomore year. You double as the 8 and the 16, and now we go to the meet of champions. And before we get there, were there any track workouts that you did that you remember, or anything that you felt confidence that gave you confidence, or the word like, did you have a favorite, least favorite workout? Or?
I have a couple favorite workout stories that I've told. They're more like horror stories to some people, but that I've told guys on the Princeton team, guys on other collegiate teams, and they're like, I don't think I could do that now. And I think that's true. I don't know if I could do it now, to be honest with you, because some of the workouts we did, looking back on it, they were pretty crazy. Like I said, the strength workouts weren't that impressive. I wasn't doing any crazy tempos or crazy long runs. And I give credit to you for that, because I think it definitely allowed me to develop a lot more in college when I did start incorporating that strength training. I remember 2 distinct workouts, but I can't remember if they were junior or senior year. One was 2 sets of 4x200s. Between 25 and 26 with 15 seconds rest in between each 200. And so you ran 4 200s with 15 seconds rest in between each one. And I think originally you said 24 to 26. And you told me something crazy like David Rudisha did like the same workout with like 22 to 23 second 200s. I thought you were just lying. But I ended up doing the workout. I think I ran like a 26 here and there. But that 15 seconds rest was probably the hardest 15 seconds of my life. That was like, I literally had to jog back. I was going full speed, all out, and I had to jog back to the line and just do it again. And then I think the broken 800 of each one was like 145 or something both times. And I knew I was in great shape then. I can't remember if that was junior or senior year, but we'll just say it was junior year. Because yeah, I mean, I was coming off a lot of, I was very confident going off the state championship titles. I ran 4:13 in the mile, 154. 4:13 I was really happy with. That was huge PR. I closed in 59. Same sort of race with Chase Kennedy. And then I ran 154 pretty much alone. So I knew I was ready to PR in the 800. 800 was my thing back then. Like I didn't really see myself as a miler. I don't know if you saw myself as a miler really, but I wanted to run the 800. So meet of champions, I'm the 8th seed out of 8. And the top seed, Devin Dixon, is like the man in Georgia right now. I think he's undefeated. Top time, he's running like 151. And I'm just trying to PR. But before the race, I'm just thinking like, I just want a big time. I'm not really trying to beat Devin Dixon. I just want a big time. And you come over and you're like, screw that. Like, you're trying to beat this kid. And the only way you're going to beat him is if you exhaust him in that third 200. Because every race he ran is the classic like speedster 800 tactics where you go out blazing that first lap, kind of jog that third 200, and then you come home hard that last fourth 200, and you're usually just so far ahead it doesn't matter. So he did that every single time. So what I did, I got out really fast. I remember watching the video and I was just like, what? I was going full speed first 200. I think we ran like 25, and that was about as fast as I could run back then. And we come through 52 seconds, fastest I've ever come through for an 800 for sure. I didn't really run much faster than that in the 400. And then the third 200 is when I knew I had to, that was my chance to really like do something. So I took off with like 300 to go. And I actually was challenging him for the lead. We were like back and forth. At this point, it's really just me and him. 600 to go, I remember somebody saying like 118, 119. And like my heart kind of dropped into my stomach. And it didn't really hit in at that time, but I think with 100 meters to go, I realized that I had gone way too fast for that first 600, and my legs started to realize it. My whole body sort of like tightened up. I couldn't really see straight. I was just like doing the skeleton walk to the line. And Devin started to get farther away, and I was like, how is he getting faster? Turns out he was not getting faster. He was getting slower too. I was just getting really, really slower. He ended up running 149. I ran 151. And I didn't even care how it felt after that. I was like so just, ecstatic with the time. I was so happy. And I think you were pretty happy too. Because that, like, I think my PR was 154 before that, and that's a solid time, but like 151, I think that put me second in the country as a junior. I think I finished 6th as a junior, like by the end of the season. So that sort of solidified my chances of getting recruited. So yeah, that was a huge race.
So yeah, going back to the workout, that 2 sets of 4x200 was your junior year. I totally knew it was a ridiculous workout, but I didn't know. I wanted our season to end you versus Devin Dixon. And I knew that Devin Dixon was a 46-second open 400-meter runner. And there was no other way that you were going to feel what you were explaining felt like without doing something ridiculous like 4 times 200 with 15 seconds rest. Because the way that lactic acid was going to build up, I think that might have been 2 or 3 weeks before that race. And I knew you would need a lot of time to recover from that workout because it was so insane. But I wanted you to feel and have to push through that buildup because I knew Devin was going to take you out in 50, 51, 52, which is something that you had never experienced before. And how are you going to be able to come back from that? So that was definitely, like I said, I don't think I've ever asked anyone to do that since. I was probably a little crazy as me as the coach, but at the end of the day, we're all crazy mad scientists. So yeah. We see what works, we see what doesn't work, and that seemed to have worked pretty good. So
I was your speed guinea pig.
Yes, you definitely were a bit of a guinea pig. You and Kobe and Jamie on the girls end of things. She was definitely a guinea pig for me early on. All
I
right.
remember throw up on Devin Dixon's shoes. That's a side note. I did throw up right next to his shoes. You remember
Yeah,
that?
I remember you told me that too.
Right before the race, I was going over to say good luck, and I got nervous back then. Like before, I would throw up before the races, and it was all I could do to just move my head to the side of his, like where his shoes were. I threw up right next to his shoes. He didn't. I was gonna like dap him up and high five him like good luck. He didn't give me that five. He did talk to me a little bit after the race. He's a really nice guy. Broke the state record that day.
Yep.
Ran 46 earlier that day. And
Yep.
I don't know. Everybody was shocked in the country when he ran 145, but honestly, I was kind of just like, okay, let's make it.
I think we both knew that was coming. I knew it was only a matter of time. Yeah, that was impressive then, and knowing that he had that much frost speed, definitely a blazer in the 800 by all means.
Yeah.
All right, so we're done with that. You know, we do a couple of extra season meets, but we won't touch on all that stuff. You know, let's talk about recruiting. So now, you know, you're taking one of the best half milers. You know, you took him out to deep water, and you guys both had a huge PR. And now you're starting to get recruited by schools. What's that look like? What schools were recruiting you, and how'd that go?
Yeah. I'll never forget. I got my first letter from Olivet Nazarene University. I couldn't tell you where it is.
It's in Illinois, actually.
Really? Okay.
Yep. Alan Swilly, he was a running back and linebacker for us, and he played running back at Olivet Nazarene. Shout out to Alan Swilly.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm looking back on it like I don't know why I was excited about that letter, but it was my first one. You know, yeah. I was thrilled. I was like, oh, dang, like. Okay, even if I might go to Olivet Nazarene University if I'm running D1. I don't even know if it's D1 or not.
Maybe or not.
I was just excited at the prospect of me running or just being an athlete in college. But after that, the letters started to really pour in. I got, Georgia, Tennessee, a lot of SEC, ACCs. I got from West Coast, I'm pretty sure I got a couple, like Utah. And I don't know if I got any of the big Pac-12 schools. I think I got Washington, University of Washington. I have them all in my room or something. I can pull them out. But I remember in class, someone would come to class, whatever class I was in, and tell the teacher, these letters are for Sam. And it would be really cool because I'd be sitting there and all the students would be like, oh, what are those? What are those? Like, recruitment letters, no big deal. In our school, there's not any big time football players, basketball players. So I was really one of the few people getting letters. So it seemed really cool, even though it was, track and field, not exactly the most glamorous sport compared to basketball recruiting or football recruiting.
It's all in the eye of the beholder. It's the most glamorous sport, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, it was exciting. And then I remember senior year cross country, the Georgia coach came out to practice and watched me run, and he ended up coming over and having dinner. And I remember, I think it was July 1st was the first day that people could call you. And I was at camp, the summer camp, working, volunteering, and I was cleaning toilets, and I get a call from the UNC coach. And UNC is my dream school at the time. My dad went there.
That's right.
Yeah. I wanted to be a Tar Heel. If you had to tell me to commit somewhere then, I just would have committed to UNC on the spot. I didn't even know much about the team. So that was super exciting. I talked to the Stanford coach. The Princeton coach called me the first day, Jason Vigilante. And I talked to a bunch of guys that day, and that's when I was okay, this is something I really want to do. If this can get me to any college I want, and I can keep running, this is what I want to do. And you were kind of walking me through it a little bit. I really liked Michigan. And even though that sort of isn't in your nature to be a fan of Michigan, you were very supportive of the idea of me maybe going to Michigan. I know you've got some, not bad blood, but I think it's good competitive spirit between.
Just like you ain't riding from nobody. If you start coaching and you get a kid and say, hey, coach, Harvard's recruiting me, what you going to say?
Yeah,
Harvard's a great school. University of Michigan is a great school. For those of y'all who don't know, I ran track at the University of Illinois. I was a half miler. And in my years, the Big Ten champ was either myself or a kid from University of Michigan. And we would just go back and forth. And so
I've met Nate Brannon.
Nate Brandon's a great guy.
Yeah, and he told me
I hated him with a passion. When I was between the ages of 20 or 18 and 23, I hated him, but now he's a great guy. I love him to death. Really cool person.
Yeah. No, but yeah. So when it came time to pick visits, I ended up picking Georgetown. Was my first one. I just thought it was a different school. Michigan, UNC, and Princeton was sort of like the fourth wild card. I didn't end up taking a fifth visit because I really like Princeton so much. But the first three visits, every single one, I got there and I came back and I was like, oh, this is awesome. This is where I want to go. Like, this is sweet. All of them were awesome. You know, they take you out, you go for runs with the guys. They're all cool guys. College campuses are way cooler than high school campuses. Just the idea of college is way cooler. So all of them were just really, really great to visit. And all great schools. My parents were, like thrilled for me to pick any of them. In Princeton, I actually told Jason Vigilante that I wasn't going to be able to come on a visit just because, I don't know, in Georgia, I don't know what, maybe we just don't have the same view of the Ivy League as people have in the Northeast, but I just didn't think it was like all that special. And I didn't think that like other places would offer scholarships. So Princeton doesn't offer athletic scholarships. So I was like, why would I go there? But he convinced me, and then my parents, he actually had to convince my parents because they weren't really on board either, to at least take a visit. And I had two more visits. I was going to wait to visit Stanford in February, but I ended up visiting Princeton, and I just fell in love. Like it was obvious that I liked it more than the other schools. The campus was great. The team was great. I loved the coach. And just it being like the best and most rigorous academic school kind of also challenged me and motivated me to go there. Just because, like say track doesn't work out, I have this great backup plan being like Princeton degree, Princeton education. And at the time I definitely was still very focused on school. So not that I'm not now, but that was just the place that I wanted to go.
So we got you at Princeton. You're being coached by Jason Vigilante. What is the big difference between the way that you're training in college as opposed to how you trained in high school? Let's talk about that jump.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of touched on it a little bit. It's just strength. I got my butt kicked on every single run when I got to school. And you warned me about it too. I remember you telling me all these stories about, I'm going to put you on the spot here, 12-mile run you had to do, and you stopped at mile 6 at a friend's house and asked for a ride for the rest of the way.
Hey man, 6 miles, 12 miles would have been 8 miles longer than I had ever run in my life. So for me to make it 6 miles, I was already in uncharted waters.
Yeah, we were a little bit different of, athletes. I definitely was like, I think Coach Vigilante had a plan for me to be a miler from the start. But so he was easy on me the freshman year, honestly. Like the workouts that we did in terms of speed and in track workouts were not that bad. I would say, your workouts were definitely, I told him a couple workouts we did in high school and he just looked at me like I was crazy. He's like Robbie Andrews, who's the assistant coach, Olympian, 2016 Olympian. It's like Robbie doesn't do some of that. There was one I told him about is 18 400s. I don't know if you remember this one. Senior year at Cheney Park, one of the first workouts of the season, I think. We did 14 400s with 90 seconds rest and 63. And then the last 4 400s, you had me spike up, and they were all supposed to be sub 60 with 60 seconds rest. And I think you had Colby pace me on one, you had Eric pace me on one, I can't remember who else paced me on the other two. But I ended up running like 58, 56, 58. and I was what you call a chalk outline after that workout. I was, yeah, body on the track, not moving.
And again, you're telling me this workout, and I'm thinking to myself, that was stupid. Why would I make you do that? Because that was ridiculous. But at the same time, I knew you weren't going to get your quality miles in. So every once in a while we do some really ridiculous stuff on the track. One for confidence, because if you can do that, you're not going to feel any of that. Because we were having you run 4x4s, 8 miles, sometimes 4x8s, probably overrunning you, overtraining you, sometimes getting you in shape during the season type deal. But yeah, that's a dumb workout as well.
No, I love it though. Like I love being able to tell the story, that I did that. And I mean, while I was doing it, of course it hurt, but like there's no better feeling than going home, you're eating dinner and you get those kind of like chills after like a big workout, like you're finally able to sit down and like relax, that you like did that. So I didn't really get that from easy workouts. So I mean, that was a good feeling. Yeah, you're right. In the long run, I looking back on it, it seems crazy now. But so yeah, freshman year was really just strength. I mean, I didn't get my, I didn't really get my butt kicked in the same way as I did in high school. I got, put in the hurt locker on long runs, tempos, sometimes just regular runs. Like kids on the team would run 8 miles and they'd run a 6:30 pace, which is pretty easy for them. But that was moving for me by the end. By the end, I was gassed. I was huffing and puffing. So, I mean, I didn't do that much mileage. I probably did 50 miles a week on average freshman year. Ended up running 150 indoors. Ran 150 outdoors. I got a little sick outdoors. It wasn't like an amazing freshman season, but I ended up running 350 for the 1500, which is 408. That was a big PR compared to high school. So it was, I PR'd. One of the assistant coaches told me, like, if you PR freshman year, like if you improve on your times from high school, it's a successful freshman year. Or even if you equal your times in high school, it's successful, because that transition can be hard. But yeah, so that was sort of freshman year in a nutshell.
Okay, so got your little rude awakening, but you're still improving.
Right.
And then we go into your sophomore year, still making minor improvements. Was there a big difference between your freshman and sophomore year that you want to talk about, or was it pretty much the same type of stuff? Or
I think it was pretty big. So we had 3 really good milers when I was a freshman who were seniors. We had like 2 guys who had run 339 and 1500. So, elite 1500 meter runners. One guy had run 401. We had 1 800 guy, so I was kind of the second 800 guy. He ended up running 147 that season. So I was definitely a core member of the team, but I wasn't, by any means the top dog or close to being the top dog. And so sophomore year, I think he started Coach Vidge started, shaping me to be a miler, because we had a hole in the middle distance, mile realm, and he really wanted me to, fill that void. And he started, giving me a lot more strength training. I started training more with the cross country guys in the fall. I did about 60 miles a week, probably on average. Long runs were like 13, 14 miles, where we get going like 5:45 pace by the end. And, I definitely felt the benefits of that. Not necessarily in cross country season. I was sort of like a rabbit in races. I would just go out and lead the team, and then I would die really hard. But when track season rolled around, I ended up running 402 indoors. First mile race I ran, which was huge. I had no idea I could run that. About a 5-6 second PR. I felt like I could have gone faster. I had all these problems with blisters, that you remember that my feet would have these giant blisters. I finally fixed that. I'll tell you about that in a second. But yeah, so that was definitely a huge. I mean, after I ran 402, it's like, all right, like I kind of put myself in a situation where, I'm a miler now. Like that was kind of solidified miler status. He's like, you don't really get to train with 800 guys anymore. I didn't really get to do as many fun speed workouts. It was more like tempos and 1,000-meter repeats. Yeah, that's kind of how sophomore year went. I ran 345 and 1,500, made regionals, which was fun, but and I had a lot of goals still left on the table by the end of sophomore year.
And what were those goals?
Ivy League champion. I really thought I could have been an Ivy League champion sophomore year. Indoors and outdoors, I thought I could have won. There was a sub-4 miler from Columbia, Sam Ritz. He ran like 359. So, I mean, he was the favorite in both, but I really thought I had him in terms of speed. Both races, I kicked so hard with a lap to go, and I died even harder the last 50 meters. Like I said, the skeleton walk. Both times, I was in the lead, and I just died so hard. And so I knew it was a strength. It was two things. One was it was a matter of strength. I just wasn't as strong as some of those guys who were like big time cross country runners. The second was just decision making. I probably ran a 1,500 every wrong way my sophomore season. And I think that was a great thing because now I sort of know how to do it. But yeah, I just would either not put myself in the race at all. I would be way out in front and die. I would, start kicking way too soon, start kicking way too late. I never really timed it up. So junior year, that was definitely a big goal of mine. Just be smarter tactically. I watched a lot of races, watched a lot of, just NCAA mile championships, just see what other guys do. And then the second big thing was strength. I was in Park City all summer before junior year, training, running 70 miles a week at altitude. That was the biggest shift from sophomore to junior year, I would say.
Okay. So now we're in your junior year. You got your summer training in Park City. You're training at altitude, all that type of stuff. Your mileage is at, you're averaging all-time highs in mileages. Let's talk about when you knew or when you circled sub-4. When did you say I can break 4 minutes? When did you decide you were going to do that?
Yeah. So there was 2 workouts I did in the fall where I was like, okay, I think I'm in like 402 shape now. So come wintertime, I'm going to break 4. And those 2 workouts were, one was 9-mile repeats, 9 by 1 mile. The first 8 were on the towpath, which is this trail right by the school. And I think it was a minute rest. And we started like 5:10, 5:10, 5:05, 5:05, 5 flat, 5 flat, 4:55, 4:55. And I think the last one was like 4:50. The 8th one was 4:50. Then we jogged back to the track. And Coach Vidge does this a lot. He just says, all right, I want you to run around 4:30, but I don't want you to look at your watch. I just want you to run. And that's sort of his permission slip to, get after it. And one of the guys, top cross country guy on our team, Connor Lundy, senior captain, he just takes off. We must have been, I didn't look at my watch, but we were probably 65 on the first lap. And I was like, okay, this is not 4:30. But I just hung in there. And last lap to go, we start moving, and it's just me and Connor. And I look back, and there's like a gap opening up. I'm like, these guys could probably run 4:30. Like, I don't think we're doing that. And we ended up running 4:16. And actually, the other guys still run like 4:18, 4:19, 4:20. Like, no one's running 4:30. A couple of guys PR'd. They're some of the like 5K guys. Kevin Barry, he's walk-on guy who I think his PR was 4:22. He ends up running 4:21 in the workout. So that was a big time workout. That was exciting. And then a week later, I do 2x4K in 12:04 and then 11:48 with 4 minutes rest. I know that workout's kind of hard to interpret, but it was fast. And I was not expecting be able to do that because that's really like a 5K workout, 5K guy workout. So after that, I knew I was strong. cross country season didn't exactly go the way I wanted to. I think I honestly burned out a little bit. I think I got fit too soon. That was in September. And, you know, I needed to be fit at the end of October and beginning of November.
Right.
I think the increase in mileage definitely took a toll. So going forward, I definitely like need to monitor that a little bit more. But it did not, you know, that strength didn't go away. Like that strength doesn't really go away. So come indoor season, I was just really fit. I can tell you a little bit about Australia, and then I'll tell you about the sub 4.
Yeah, let's talk about your time down under.
Down under. So one of my best friends on the team, great steeplechaser, 833 steeplechaser, Ed Trippus, ended up winning the regional NCAA regional meet last year. Invited us to go to Sydney. We had planned it like in January the year before, for Christmas break and New Year's. So we ended up flying to Sydney, Australia, at the end of like school, like around December 15th or so. And this is coming off cross country season. We didn't have exactly the best cross country season we wanted to. We're all sort of, you know, definitely gearing up for a strong indoor, you know, sort of like a comeback season. And I'm just doing regular workouts, regular mileage, nothing crazy, with Ed and some other guys down in Australia. And there's this race called the Albie Thomas Mile where you're, you know, it's the Australian National Championships. It's like one of 4 Australian National Championships. Like if you win the mile, you're Australian National Champ. And Ed somehow got me in the race. He's got connections at the you know, track club there, and he got me in the race. And I don't really, this is the beginning of the season. I have no idea what kind of shape I'm in. I could have run 425. I could have run 405. I wouldn't have been surprised either way. And so I get in the race, and the year before I'd gone 358. The year before that I'd gone like 357. So I was like, all right, I don't know if I'm in sub 4 shape, but I'm just gonna, you know, hang on, see what happens. Ends up going out in like 320 for 1200. So we're all jogging, and it feels like I'm jogging. Like, you know, I mean, it was my first race back, but it felt like I felt good. Last lap, I take off with 250 meters. I'm like, I'm pretty much in third the whole time. And with 250 meters to go, I feel about the same as I did 200 meters in. You know, I feel good. And 250 meters to go, I just take off, and I don't really look back. And I end up winning the race and ran. I think the time was like 4:14, closed in 54, so it was good. But I got the Australian national champ title. They didn't officially give it to me. You would have liked this. They had a WWE belt for the winner, but they gave it to the Australian. Makes sense. I'm not a citizen, but they named him.
Told the interviewer how good a Vegemite sandwich was.
Oh yeah, they asked me in the interview. Well, they didn't actually ask me. It was just a comment I made.
Yeah, that was just the icing on the cake. The Vegemite isn't that bad, by the way.
Yeah. Ed introduced us to Vegemite, and you know, I had a big scoop of it the first time, and it's gross. But he's like, nah, mate, this is how you do it. And you like lightly scrape some butter for those of you at home. Lightly scrape the Vegemite, just a tiny bit over the top, and it's really delicious. Not, you know, one of the many great things about Australia. That place was awesome. Awesome trip, awesome race. But that was a huge confidence booster because a lot of those guys in the race were 350. You know, they were like 338, 1500 guys, 337, 1500 guys. You know, as slow as it was, I knew I could compete. So going into January, getting back, I run 224 first 1K opener, then I run 150 in the 800. You know, I'm getting first or second in every race. Then I run 222 in the K all alone. My coach yells at me, and he's really pissed off. He's not happy because we're trying to go for the school record, which was 220. The Ivy League record was 219. I really thought I was in shape to get that. So next week is the sub 4 mile. I think it's 2 weeks after that. And it must have been in his plan to yell at me at the K because it really got me fired up for the mile. And I think that was his plan all along because, you know, 222 wasn't a bad time and I won the race. But it worked because in the mile I was I had never been more like locked in for a race. You know, I was still relaxed and like, you know, being me, having fun, but I was focused.
What color was your hair that day?
It was bleach blonde. Don't ask me why. It was
You tapped into your Sam Shady. You went Sam
yeah,
Shady on it.
shady. Yeah, I definitely got called some shady a few times. You know, I we're not gonna go into that. No, it was sort of a, I won't say a bet gone wrong, but I was just trying something new and ended up didn't liking. I didn't really like the bleached hair, so I buzzed it. The buzz was still blonde buzz for a little time, but now it's still not really grown back. I don't know if it ever will at this point, but um, yeah, that mile race, it was crazy. My computer's on 1%. I'm gonna run the charger, but I'll keep talking. Um, Going into the race, like, you know, this is the top race at the Boston Valentine Invite. So every year, the year before, I think it was one in 356. The year before that, I was running 356. So like, I know that if I am in the race with like 200 to go, that I'm breaking four. So that's just what I keep telling myself. Just stay in the race as long as possible. Sorry, I'm doing some adjustments.
You need to make up your bed anymore.
I know. Don't look. Yeah, so I can't get in the chair. Hold on. Technical difficulties.
All good. All good.
Here we go.
So before you get back situated, I'll give you time to gather yourself. I remember you texting me that workout, the mile and the 4K, and then I think we were finishing up cross country season maybe, and I showed Souther and all those, because by now I'm coaching cross country, so I showed Souther and all them, and I'm like, this boy's about to break 4 minutes. I told Monica that you were gonna do it. My wife Monica, I told her, yeah, it's only a matter of time. He's gonna break 4 minutes this year. It's gonna be a pretty big sub-4 race too, and you know, she's just like, okay, whatever, if you say so, type of deal. And I think I told you to write something on your mirror. I was like, the biggest thing that's going to keep you from actually doing it is just believing it. And I think I was telling you to write it down, you know, on your mirror so you see it every day. I don't know if you actually did that, but I definitely suggested that for you. And I knew for you, you know, having coached you, a lot of that is mental because you physically have, and you've always had it, but a lot of it comes down to the mentality and the way that you approach it. So, let's go back to the race. So it's the day of the race, and you got your low blind buzz cut, and you're focused. And let's hear it. Gun goes off.
Yeah. Well, to comment on your mirror, you know, idea, I posted it on the ceiling above my bed, like sub 4. So every time I woke up, I could like see it above my bed. So that was sort of my motivation. I mean, I wasn't, you know, I think Coach Vidge and you a lot of the time did a really good job about like not really worrying about the time. Like if you just race every race and try to win, you just keep winning, eventually you're going to get the time you want to get. So I tried to just think about it like that. I wasn't going to look at the clock. I was just going to race, and I just had to like put faith in the other competitors really, that we were going to go fast and that we were going to break 4. So gun goes off, and there's a couple guys in the race that are, you know, like top dogs, big time. A lot of guys have already gone sub 4. Like this isn't really just a sub 4 race. This is like trying to run 356 sort of race. And I find myself behind the pacer, which is exactly what my coach didn't want me to do. He wanted me to be in like 3rd or 4th and not have to worry about anything and just be like a passenger, you know, in the race. But instead, I'm the one behind the pacer. I'm sort of leading. Pacer hops off. I lead up until 1,000 meters to go. And, you know, I'm a little nervous right here. I'm like, this is my one chance, and I'm about to blow it by like blowing a gasket with a lap to go. So I back off a little bit. I'm pretty sure I didn't really know what times we were going through at. I'm pretty sure I heard someone say like 258, 259. with with 400 meters to go. And I mean, pretty much everything before that was a blur. You know, I don't really remember the first 1200. But I do remember with 400 to go, this Harvard kid, Kieran Tuntovit, great runner, definitely a bit of a rivalry between us. Not necessarily between me and him, just like him and our team. He's more of a 5K, 3K guy, really. So he takes off with 400 to go. And my first instinct is like, I'm not losing to this kid, like this Harvard kid. Like, you know, you lose to a professional in the race. It's like, okay, he's a professional. You lose to like a 356 miler, you know, it's okay. Like, you don't want to lose, but, you know, you kind of accept it. But this kid, I was just like, I do not want to lose this kid. And I take off, and I just see his like crimson jersey in front of me. And I'm probably in fourth, and he's taking the lead with like, I don't know, 300 meters to go. And I just keep chasing him. And I can't tell if I'm getting faster or other guys are getting slower, but I just start catching guys. And then 200 to go, I had no idea what the time was, but I just, you know, I started going. At this point, I'm still pretty smooth. Like, I'm trying to, you know, in high school, pretty much the last like 500 meters, you see it in my face. It's just all like grit. But in college, I think one of the biggest changes is trying to just run as relaxed as possible until that last kick. And so that last kick came. I was probably right on the Harvard guy's tail with like 75 meters to go. The last 50, I just take off, and he surges too, and we're like fighting at the line. He ends up winning. So my first instinct when I cross the line is like, dang, I just lost to this Harvard kid. Like, I'm pretty bummed. And I look up at the clock, and it says 3:57, and everything is just like, kind of like buzzing. Like, the crowd's really loud. The coach and athletes come over, you know, like my teammates come over and like pick me up and like hug me. And yeah, I mean, I was just shocked. I was kind of just like walking around like I just did that. And then my coach goes, all right, act like you belong here. Go cool down. And that was it, you know. It was like 2 minutes, maybe a minute, 60 seconds of like elation and celebration. And then it's like, all right, go cool down. End up throwing up in a trash can. And then I go jog, throw up on the cool down, you know. I'm actually feeling pretty good. I think it was really just nerves was the reason I threw up. But, you know, I felt really good in the race. So yeah, that was first time. I text you. I think that day I text my parents. I text my friends. Everybody's texting me. So, you know, it was amazing.
Big Sam Fields.
Yeah.
Big Sam showed up that day. That's right. No, I was super impressed. I mean, like I said, we knew it was a matter of time in the Smith household. So, you know, for me, I think one of the special relationships I have with almost all my athletes, and you know, it's you know, we like to talk. I'm a huge trash talker, so I always tell them, you know, well, when I was in college, I was a 148 guy. You know, I ran XYZ. So now, you know, I always kind of have and held this aura of, well, you can't beat me at 150, which to this day, I can still get you at about 250, 300 meters. You still can get me.
Not saying 300, 250.
Man, I will murder you over 300 meters. Man, you kidding me? Give you an elbow and everything.
310.
I was like, you really became, I mean, you was always the real deal, but that day you solidified yourself. You broke a 27-year-old school record?
Yeah, 29-year-old school record.
Something like that,
yeah,
27, 29.
The guy who broke it, great guy, Bill Burke, he ran 3:58. I want to say he ran on a crappy track. He probably could have run faster, but he sent me a gift, like a book, like it's the sub 4 minute mile by Roger Bannister, like signed edition. Like, I gotta show you this book. And with like an awesome note, like just an incredible gesture, send me that, and was just like, you know, keep on running, keep getting better. And so yeah, I read that book like front to back. So yeah, that it was just an awesome day. Not only that, but it qualified me for the NCAA championships, which was, you know, huge. It was always a goal to make NCAA's outdoors, but indoors you got to get top 16 in the country. I think that put me at 7th that day, and I was the 9th seed and ended up going into national championships. But yeah, and so the next like 2 weeks, nothing's really changed. If anything, I'm like nervous about not holding up to that standard now. I end up getting my Ivy League championship in the 1K. It was pretty. It wasn't a super competitive race, but it felt so good to just eventually finally get that title.
Yeah, another check mark.
Yeah, exactly. And the 1K is really that's probably one of my favorite events. I still love the 800 and I like the mile, so like it's that perfect blend. And then we end up winning the distance medley relay too. I lead off that 1200 leg, end up winning that. We end up winning the meet, so that unfortunately was the end of the season, but it was a great way to end that, cap off that indoor season. So yeah.
So yeah, that's a great way to end the season. Still leaving a sour taste in our mouth because there's so much more left on the table, and we were definitely feeling like you were primed to make more things happen. But that being said, that just makes you more hungry going forward. So, let's talk about. We'll finish with what are your goals going forward? Where else do you feel like running can take you, or where do you see yourself going in the sport?
Yeah. That mile race changed a lot. I didn't really think much about the future with running. I just thought about goals collegiately. But after running that mile, I kind of realized that and my coach and friends and family, they were all like, well, is this something you want to do like after college? And so having that sort of realization has shifted my goals definitely a little bit. As far as my career at Princeton, I still want to get that 1500-meter title outdoors. I would like to even double and maybe try to get that 800-meter title too. I don't know how my coach is going to feel about that, but especially if it's close within the team points, which I don't know if it will be, but if it is close, then I'll try to do that double. I don't have a lot of time goals other than to make the Olympic trials, which are now postponed to 2021. So running 357 definitely gives me some confidence that I can do that, because the goal is really like 338 for the 1500. It's about 356 ish. If I can run 356 next year, which I'm pretty confident that I'll be able to do, maybe 355, that'll definitely qualify me for the trials. And then I think that is the number one goal, and I think it's pretty attainable. So that's the top of the list for sure. I still need to beat your 800 officially.
Waiting. Once you do that, you'll be running 352s.
Yeah. Is that how it works?
Once you get that foot speed all rolled up into one big
time, man. I should have just run another 800 this season, just so I could have done it.
You got a whole other year of listening to me tell you that I was a better half mile than you. I'm just gonna text you like once a week just to remind you.
Yeah. Who would have thought I would have broke 4 before 150? It's not really. It's usually the other way around, but.
Yeah, that's just a testament to, like you said, once Coach Vidge put that miler hat on you, you guys definitely shifted the way that you were training, and you know he knew what he was doing. He knows what he's doing, so definitely primed you to do that sub 4 in the mile. And I think as much as you like the 1,000, I think that 1,500. I mean, you've run your fair share. That extra 100 meters, it's going to be to your advantage because you have a lot more foot speed than a lot of the guys. And I've been telling you this since you were probably 13, 14 years old. Your foot speed is world class. Everything else is going to come around. So now that you're actually seeing it all come to fruition, and me personally, I think I'm going to be going to Tokyo in 2021. So that's my goal. We'll definitely be out in Eugene, but I got Tokyo circled on the calendar. So I think if you keep improving and believe in yourself more than anything, you'll definitely be able to make that Olympic team, and the world will be your running oyster, if you will.
Yeah.
So that's just the way I feel. I'm biased. We all know that, but you know, I'll fight somebody if they tell me that you won't be on the team right now. So I think you got a good chance of making it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have those big goals in the back of my head. I'm trying to, keep a level head by just having those attainable goals being the first priority, and then sort of reassessing every time. But I would be lying if I said I didn't have those bigger goals in the back of my mind.
Right, and you supposed to, you know, get there. I'm supposed to put you already there.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's what I'm doing. All right, man. So I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining me on the Exchange Zone. I'm going to read off all your little stats that I really didn't get to at the beginning, but this is Big Sam, Sam Ellis. We got him as a 3-time middle school state champ, 7-time high school state champ. 10 times. I've coached him to 10 state championships, 2 middle school records, a high school record. No, I think he ended up with a high school record in both divisions even.
yeah.
2-time Ivy League champion and new Princeton mile record holder in the 357. And what was the chain? 357, 56.
66, I think.
66. Smoking fast. Thank you, Sam Ellis, for joining me. Anything else you want to say before we sign off?
Thanks for coaching me, getting me.
It's been a pleasure, always. Be soon to join us. We'll have more episodes coming up. I'm going to be speaking with former athletes, current athletes, guys I competed against, coaches, and everything, So we just going to talk, mostly track and field, but we just going to talk. Again, thanks for joining us, Sam. Have a nice day.
Thanks, Coach.
Later, man.